Hello and welcome to Progeox tip of the month. Today we will see how to model a 3D surface using the Geological mapping module, which is found in the Progeox category. The Geological mapping module is ideal for visualizing, analyzing, and interpreting ranges of exploratory geological data, both numerical and text-based. The first step is to configure the grade or elevation intervals that you will be working with. To do that, go to Essentials, then to the ProMine options, and then type in the password. And then in here, go to Grades. So in here, this is where you will configure the grade types. So to do that, click on Add and add a grade type. So for example, for gold here, you will input these fields and then add an alias in case that your grade type is not written in the exact same manner as your data file, and then add a color interval by clicking Add and inputting these fields here. So for example, here we have between 0 and 1 is green, between 1 and 2 is this color, and so on. To add an elevation, all what you have to do is simply add the color intervals. All right, so you don't need to worry about this part of the window. So once you have this configured, go back to Progeox and click on Import Points from the Geological Mapping module. In here, you have the option to either use a CSV file or import points from a database. In our case, we'll use a CSV file. So now the first step is to select the text file or the CSV file. And once you select it, you'll notice that these drop-down lists here appear. So now what you're going to do is basically link all these columns to the fields. All right, so the delimiter here is a comma, layer to use. We'll keep everything on the layer 0. For the X column, we have the position X, Y column, position Y, and then for Z is position Z. All right, so these don't have to be written in this exact same manner, but you need to have one column for each of these coordinates. And then next is the additional columns. So this is where you will link the data associated with those coordinates. So in our case here, we have the count, name, elevation, and grade. So we have both here, elevation and grade. And we will see how those can be modeled. All right, so here, let's just make sure that the name here is set to text and everything to number. And then for color points using, this is optional here. But if you want to set it by default, then you can choose elevation or grade here. And then once you start modeling, the program will automatically model according to what you selected here. In our case, we'll toggle this off and hit OK. And let's zoom extent. And as we can see here, we have the points, but we don't really see them well. So we will use the AutoCAD command ddp type to scale our points. So let's choose this cross to represent each point. And let's change the size to 2%. So as you can see, we can view them a little bit better in this case. And if we rotate the drawing here, we can see them in 3D. All right, back to plan view. Now we're going to use the draw contours command to model our surface. So this is basically what's going to allow you to draw the contours from a set of points. We're going to click here and this window will appear. Now you have multiple point selection types. You can either pick points from a layer or by picking them or by selecting a limit zone. In our case, since we have our points in the drawing here, we can just say pick, select all the points, and hit enter. Now we have the points selected. We can choose what to model as a property. Now we have both here, grade and elevation. Let's start with elevation. So as you saw here, as soon as I clicked on elevation, the program automatically extracted the highest point and the lowest point, and it suggested spacing. For the color scheme, we configured this in the ProMine options, elevation, and we're going to keep it on the same layer, 0. Now for the contours, we can annotate them as well. We're going to toggle this option And then the program will also suggest a text height and a distance between texts. We're going to rely on those values. And for decimals, we can input a value of 1. Now, again, we're going to keep it on the same layer here, layer 0. And we're also going to color the intervals of the contours. We're going to choose elevation here, and we'll keep the legend scale the same. And we're also going to input this on layer 0. Now for the contour generation method, we have some industry standard choices here of interpolation. All right, so we're going to leave it by default and hit OK. And once the modeling is finished, place your legend. And let's switch to realistic mode to view this a little bit better. And there we have it, the 3D modeling surface of the elevation. So as you can see here, each color represents a different elevation, and our contours are also color-coded based on the selected color intervals from the ProMine options. And if we go back to plan view, we can see the color code of the elevation on the right-hand side right here. Now let's perform that same operation, but with the grades. So now to model the grades, let's use the same command. We're going to go to the Geological mapping module, the Draw Contours command, and we're going to say pick from selection, select our points, hit OK. And then from the contour properties, we're going to make sure that this is the grade selected. And as you can see here, we have the minimum and maximum points automatically extracted, and the program suggests a spacing. For the color scheme, we're going to choose gold here, and we'll keep this on the same layer. And we're also going to annotate the contours, so we'll leave this by default, but not the color intervals in this case. And we're going to keep the same contour generation method. So once this is configured, you can click OK. So once the modeling is finished, as you can see here, we have the contours which represent different grades. So we know that according to what we configured in the ProMine options, that anything that is red, purple, or pink tends to be high grade. Anything that's yellow or green is low grade. So this gives you a very good indication of where the high grade zones are, and you can efficiently and effectively locate them using the Geological mapping module. And with that being said, this concludes this tip of the month.